In the middle of his dull, barely necessary security shift, Ethan glanced up from his control panel. The monotonous beep of the intercom crackled, and an official-sounding voice called his name. Irritation flickered across his face, but he responded. Curiosity piqued when he was summoned to pick up a government-issued upgrade in his office. Ethan, congratulations. You've been assigned a government-issued bodyguard, the official said with a faint smile that Ethan couldn't quite place. Before he could question it, the door opened to reveal his so-called upgrade. There she stood, a tall, feline-like alien with lithe limbs and eyes that sparkled like polished onyx. Her skin shimmered faintly under the fluorescent lights, and she looked soft. Not exactly the image of combat readiness he'd imagined. He opened his mouth to ask if this was some kind of joke when she stepped forward, her voice a low, purring hum that caught him off guard. I'm your government-issued bodyguard. Use me however you like, she said, looking up at him with a gaze both innocent and, somehow, teasing. Right, he muttered, raising a brow, momentarily thrown by her choice of words. He shook his head, deciding to brush it off and focus on figuring out her purpose. Well, I guess welcome? Her tail swished behind her, and she tilted her head. Thank you, human. I am prepared for all forms of service. Command me as you wish. Trying to stay professional, Ethan cleared his throat and gestured toward the break room. How about you just get familiar with the layout first? He wasn't exactly prepared to hand out commands to a government-issued alien bodyguard, especially not one with that kind of enthusiasm. Yes, human. I shall familiarize myself with all relevant environments. She moved with grace, following him into the break room, then pausing at the fridge. She stared intently, perhaps assessing it as a potential threat. Her ears perked up as she looked back to him. Would you like me to disarm it? No, he said, holding back a smirk. Just relax. You're here to protect, not dismantle. Understood. She nodded, evidently pleased with herself, though her gaze still lingered on the fridge as though it might spring to life at any moment. Realizing he'd have to lay down some guidelines, Ethan explained his work routine in as straightforward a way as he could manage, noting her rapt attention. So, the job is mostly just looking out for anything suspicious. Not a lot of action. He paused, feeling the need to clarify, and by that, I mean no actual action. Just watch, okay? Her eyes sparkled with interest. Watch for anything unusual. I understand. I am highly trained in the art of observation. Before he could reply, she swept around the room, peeking at every nook and cranny. She paused at the coffee machine, leaning in close, as if analyzing its inner workings. Finally, she looked back at him. I can see there are numerous dangers here, but you must be very brave, human. The seriousness in her voice was both baffling and hilarious. Ethan tried to keep a straight face, but it was impossible. Thanks, I guess. But you don't really have to worry about the coffee machine, all right? She blinked. Then what is my primary threat? Command me to neutralize it, and I will proceed immediately. Yeah, you're just here in case of any unexpected visitors, he said, choosing his words carefully. Her wide eyes took in each one as if they were sacred truths. You know, something really dangerous. Oh yes, something very dangerous, she agreed, a serious expression returning to her face. She looked ready to charge the coffee machine if he so much as glanced at it wrong. I shall be vigilant. Deciding a distraction might help, he led her back toward his desk. As they walked, he explained that part of his job was watching surveillance footage. So, yeah, just keep an eye on the screens, and if you see anything unusual, let me know. She nodded emphatically. I am equipped with superior observational skills, human. I will detect any potential threats with utmost accuracy. Trying to get her comfortable, he pulled out an extra chair. She sat, looking around with unbridled curiosity, taking in every inch of his workspace as though cataloging vital details. Her tail curled around the chair's leg as she leaned in close to the screen. As she watched the mundane footage, she whispered, Is this your primary form of protection? Observing digital portals for threats. He stifled a laugh, almost feeling bad for her. Yep. Riveting stuff, huh? Oh, very, she said, her tone entirely serious. She peered at the screen, clearly intent on protecting him from any virtual dangers lurking there. Her dedication, though misplaced, was oddly endearing. As the first hour passed without incident, Ethan decided to make small talk to lighten the mood. So, what did you do before, becoming my bodyguard? Her ears perked up again, and she replied earnestly, my previous duty involved protecting delicate artifacts. But I am delighted to be assigned to a more interactive position now. Delicate artifacts, huh? He chuckled. Well, guess I'm in good hands then. Oh yes, she said, her voice dropping to a low purr again. And I will not let you down, human. Use me however you like. Her words, delivered with utmost sincerity, caught him off guard once again, making him cough to stifle his laugh. I think I'll keep things low-key for now, but thanks for the offer, he replied, shaking his head. He decided he'd have to get used to that line, or figure out how to get her to stop saying it. She continued to sit close, an eager look in her eyes as she awaited any possible command. The silence stretched on, and Ethan couldn't deny it was strangely nice to have her around, quirks and all. Ethan sighed, rubbing his eyes as he leaned back in his chair, the hum of the office more oppressive than usual. After the weird encounter with his new alien bodyguard, things hadn't gotten much better. She was still there, sitting on the edge of his desk, tail flicking impatiently, staring at him with those intense black eyes as though she was waiting for him to give her a purpose. He wasn't sure if he should be relieved or worried about how eager she was. All right, he said, pushing himself to his feet. Time for some basic training. You need to understand what you're supposed to be doing here. Her ears perked up, her tail straightening in attention. Training? I am ready for anything human. I will protect you from any threat. Okay, first things first, he began, rubbing his chin, trying to figure out how to break this to her. Your main job is to protect me from, well, anything that might come our way. Doesn't matter if it's an alien invasion or just a bad coffee spill. Got it? She looked at him with wide-eyed seriousness. I am ready for all forms of protection, human. Anything that threatens your safety will be obliterated. He raised an eyebrow. Yeah, let's not start with obliterating anything just yet. Maybe ease into it. He pointed to the training area he'd set up in a small section of the office. A few mats, some light training weapons. Nothing too crazy. We'll start small. Basic combat scenarios. I want you to show me what you've got. Without hesitation, she stood up, her fluid movements almost too graceful. She nodded once. Understood, human. Prepare yourself for the greatest of battles. Ethan watched as she casually grabbed a foam sword from the training area, a completely harmless weapon, but her eyes glinted with determination. She swung the sword in the air with such force that it flew out of her hands and clattered against the wall. Ethan barely had time to react before she pounced to retrieve it, all in one fluid motion. Right, Ethan said, trying to keep a straight face. Maybe we'll start with something simpler. Let's see how you handle basic defense. A threat comes in, and you need to react fast. You see a suspicious figure outside the door. You stop them before they come in. I understand, she said with complete certainty. I will neutralize them immediately. The door creaked open, and Ethan caught a glimpse of his fellow security guard, Mike, entering the room. Before Ethan could warn him, the alien companion sprang to her feet, leaping forward with what could only be described as an overly enthusiastic greeting. Asterisk, I will protect you, human. Asterisk, she shouted as she tackled Mike to the ground, wrapping her arms around him in what seemed like an awkwardly affectionate embrace. I have neutralized the threat. Are you unharmed, human? She asked, her face hovering a mere inch from his, as Mike tried to wriggle free. Mike's face was flushed with confusion, and maybe a hint of panic. What the hell is going on? I'm just here to drop off some paperwork. I have saved you, she purred proudly, looking back at Ethan as Mike grunted beneath her. No harm will come to my human. Ethan ran a hand over his face. Okay, maybe not that approach. Let's just focus on defensive stances, all right? She stood up, her face glowing with the joy of the interaction. You're right, human. I will protect you better than anyone else. Ethan wasn't entirely sure about that, but he had to admit she was trying her best. After a few more misfires involving her attempting to disarm invisible threats or protecting objects that didn't need protecting, Ethan decided to get to the heart of the matter. All right, Let's try something more serious, he said, trying to keep his tone firm. I need you to use your alien tech. I was told you have advanced abilities. She nodded solemnly. I am equipped with highly advanced technology, human. My protection capabilities exceed those of your species. Great, Ethan said, rolling his eyes slightly. Then let's see it. I want you to shield me from any, potential hazards. Something like a blaster shot. He gestured vaguely, not expecting anything serious. With a flourish, she extended her hand toward him, and within seconds, a shimmering, translucent shield enveloped him. Ethan jumped back, startled by the sudden display of force. The shield was glowing softly, and it looked sturdy enough to withstand a full-on attack from an army. She smiled with pride. Protection complete. You are now safe, human. Ethan couldn't help but chuckle. All right. But you don't need to use that much power just to block an imaginary threat. She blinked, tilting her head. Did I overdo it? Just a little, he said with a smile. Let's try something else. I need you to learn control. You don't have to go full-on alien tech every time I say asterisk danger. Asterisk will start with a different exercise. She dropped the shield, nodding enthusiastically. I understand, human. I will hold back my powers. Good, he said, relieved. Now, let's pretend there's an actual danger. Someone comes in, and you don't know if they're hostile. You need to be prepared, but you don't want to escalate things unnecessarily. Let's see how you do in a real threat scenario. She stared at him, looking intensely serious. A real threat. Understood. Just then, the office door creaked open again. A delivery man, carrying a package, stepped in without noticing the alien bodyguard standing there. He looked up startled as the alien stood straight, hands at her sides. She locked eyes with the delivery man and then, with the most serious voice imaginable, spoke in a calm, commanding tone. Please leave the package at the door. You are not authorized to enter further. Move, or I will neutralize the threat. The poor man took one step backward, eyes wide, unsure of how to react. Ethan quickly stepped forward, raising his hands. She's not going to neutralize you. But the alien continued, her voice unwavering. You are a threat to my human. Step away from the entrance. I have been assigned to protect him at all costs. Ethan sighed, face-palming as the delivery man turned and bolted out of the room, not sure whether to be frightened or amused. Okay. We definitely need to work on your idea of neutralize, Ethan muttered, trying not to laugh. He wasn't sure if she was getting better at this or just becoming more terrifying. She stood there, chest puffed with pride, waiting for further instructions. I'll work with you on that, he said, rubbing his temples. You're getting there, but we're going to need a few more lessons. And please, no more neutralizing innocent delivery guys. Ethan's shift was dragging on, and despite his best efforts to train his alien bodyguard, things weren't exactly going as planned. The morning had been filled with misfires, misunderstandings, and awkward moments that had left him questioning whether he'd made the right decision to accept the government-issued upgrade. His companion was earnest, no doubt, but her idea of protection was anything but conventional. He was about to take a break when the intercom crackled, cutting through the silence. Emergency alert. Unknown threat detected in vicinity, the voice said. Ethan stiffened, glancing at his alien bodyguard, who immediately perked up and stood to attention. I'm ready to neutralize, she said, her voice smooth with certainty, her tail flicking with excitement. Hold on, Ethan said, holding up a hand. It might be nothing. Let's just stay calm. Her expression didn't shift. I have been trained to protect. I will neutralize whatever it is, human. Before he could stop her, she was already moving toward the door, her pace quickening. Stay close, she called over her shoulder. Ethan cursed under his breath and followed, hoping this was all just a glitch. But he couldn't shake the feeling that things were about to get weird, as usual. As they stepped outside into the corridor, they saw nothing unusual. The hallway was empty. The lights hummed quietly, and no alarms were blaring. Still, the alien was on high alert. She scanned the area, her eyes darting left and right like she was hunting something. Ethan opened his mouth to ask what she was doing when she froze, her gaze fixed on something in the distance. He followed her eyes but saw nothing. What's going on? He asked, heart racing, trying to make sense of the situation. There, she said, pointing a finger dramatically. I sense a disturbance. Disturbance? There's nothing here, Ethan said, looking around again. He was starting to think she had misunderstood the alert. But before he could voice that concern, she rushed forward, her movements fluid and graceful. Stay behind me, human. I will neutralize the threat. Wait. Ethan tried to stop her, but it was too late. She had already reached the corner and was crouched down, ready to pounce. You're not even sure. She whipped around the corner, pouncing at what she believed to be an alien infiltrator. The only problem was, it was just an office janitor, minding his own business, pushing a cleaning cart. The man yelped as she tackled him to the ground, her limbs tangled around him in a full-body hug. Threat neutralized, she declared, clearly satisfied with her actions, as the janitor struggled beneath her. Ethan rushed over, mortified. What the hell are you doing? That's just Carl from cleaning. The janitor was gasping for air, clearly terrified and confused. I'm just here to clean. Let me go. The alien bodyguard blinked, then slowly loosened her grip, looking down at the man as if realizing her mistake. I apologize. You are not a threat. I will release you now. She carefully helped him up, though he looked less than relieved. Carl, you good? Ethan asked, his face flushed with embarrassment. The janitor rubbed his throat, still wide-eyed. I'm fine. I just didn't expect that man. You're alien. Yeah, she's still getting used to things, Ethan muttered, turning to the bodyguard. Listen, you can't just assume everyone is a threat. I am sorry, human, she said with complete sincerity. I was protecting you. I thought the disturbance was an enemy. She tilted her head, almost like a cat trying to make sense of a confusing situation. I should have been more discerning. Ethan rubbed his face, sighing. We really need to go over this discernment thing. You can't just jump at people because they're nearby. You've got to assess the situation first. I understand, she said, her voice still soft, though she didn't seem all that sorry. But if I do not act quickly, I risk failing my duty. My people value swift action. Well, my people don't usually tackle office workers during their lunch breaks, Ethan said, trying to keep the sarcasm in check. Then I will adjust my approach, she said, sounding determined. Next time, I will be more careful. I will make sure to assess the threat more thoroughly. She looked up at him. You can rely on me, human. Ethan wasn't sure if that was reassuring or terrifying. Yeah, just maybe tone down the assess part, and we'll get along just fine. Before he could continue, another alert sounded over the intercom. This time it was less vague. Attention! Potential intruder in Sector 4. Proceed with caution. See, the alien said, her voice gleaming with confidence. This time, I will ensure I neutralize the threat properly. No, Ethan said quickly, raising his hand to stop her. Not again. We're going to approach this one differently. She looked at him confused. But the threat could be dangerous. Yeah, but we need to figure out who it is before we go all tackle hug on them, Ethan replied, shaking his head. We need to think this through. She nodded, though there was a clear tension in her posture. Understood, human. I will follow your lead. Together, they moved towards Sector 4, this time at a slower pace. Ethan led the way, keeping his eyes peeled for anything out of the ordinary. As they approached the door, he could hear faint voices, but nothing that screamed intruder. All right, he whispered, peering through the small window in the door. We need to confirm what's going on inside. Let me handle this. She was already at the door, her hand poised to blast through it with some kind of alien force field. Ethan stopped her just in time. No. We're not doing this your way. She lowered her hand, though her disappointment was obvious. I understand. I will follow your instructions, human. Ethan opened the door slowly, peering into the room. Inside, he saw a few staff members, one of them working on a terminal, completely unaware of the situation. Looks like a false alarm, Ethan said, exhaling in relief. He turned back to the alien, who was watching him with a look of frustration. I was prepared to neutralize, she said, her voice almost pouty. I am disappointed that there was no action. Not every situation needs a big reaction, Ethan said, resting his hand on her shoulder. Sometimes, being calm and careful is more important than charging in. She blinked, processing his words. I will learn, human. You are right. Sometimes waiting is the best approach. Good, Ethan said, relieved. You'll get it. Just keep it low-key for now. As they walked back to their post, Ethan could already feel the weight of the day lifting. The alien wasn't perfect, but she was trying. Maybe a little too hard. Still, at least she was starting to understand the balance between overreacting and being completely useless. They still had a long way to go, but for now, Ethan was just glad Carl was still alive and not locked in a janitor closet. Ethan had just finished a long, exhausting day of trying to get his alien bodyguard to understand the finer nuances of human life. The whole experience had been a mix of frustrating and hilarious, with just a touch of danger, courtesy of her unpredictable behavior. She was undeniably skilled and powerful, but the simplest of tasks seemed to turn into an over-the-top mission for her. All he wanted was to relax, but as always, his bodyguard was never far from him, waiting for her next command. He sat back in his office chair, staring at his computer screen, when he heard her voice, bright and eager, from the doorway. Human, she began, her tone serious. I believe I have mastered the art of protection. Ethan glanced up, eyebrow raised. Oh, really? Because I'm pretty sure last time you mastered it, you tackled Carl from cleaning into a wall. She tilted her head, completely unbothered by the reference. I thought I was protecting you from an enemy invader. His uniform confused me. Ethan just sighed and rubbed his temples. It's fine. We've been over this. But hey, you're still learning, right? She puffed her chest proudly. I am improving, human. I promise. I now understand the need for subtlety. She paused for a moment, then added, and control. No unnecessary neutralization. Yeah, that's a good start, he said, leaning back in his chair. He glanced over at her. So, what's next in your mastery of protection? Tonight, she said, her voice full of determination, I will demonstrate my abilities in a different way. I have found that our current environment lacks a proper challenge. Ethan blinked, narrowing his eyes. What do you mean by challenge? I believe, she said with a glint in her eye, you need to be properly tested. To understand my true power. Ethan wasn't sure if he liked the sound of that. What kind of test are you talking about? With an impish grin, she extended her hands toward him. A combat simulation. I will show you my full range of abilities. I will fight you, human. To prove I can protect you, I must first defeat you. His jaw dropped, and he leaned forward. Wait, you want to fight me? Like, for real? Indeed, she said, nodding solemnly. You will try to overpower me, and I will demonstrate how my skills far surpass yours. Okay, first off, no, Ethan said, shaking his head rapidly. I'm not going to fight you, and I'm definitely not going to try to overpower you. I just need you to stay calm and not attack everything that moves, all right? She pouted, clearly unsatisfied with his response. But, human, you cannot learn my true value without seeing my powers in action. She paused, as if thinking deeply. Perhaps I should initiate a training exercise. No, he said quickly, holding up his hand. No more training exercises. I'm not going to be a part of whatever this is. Her ears drooped slightly in disappointment, but she didn't back down. Then you are not allowing me to prove myself worthy. Ethan sighed, thinking quickly. All right. How about this? If you really want to show me your skills, let's do it with something practical. Something that could actually help you protect me. No fighting, just, I don't know, a test of strategy? Her eyes lit up at that. A strategy test? I will dominate in this as well. I can outthink any threat. Great, Ethan said with a grin, relieved. Okay, let's pretend we're in a high-risk situation like an ambush. I need you to figure out how to protect me without going into full battle mode. We're going to focus on thinking your way out of the problem. She narrowed her eyes, clearly processing. This sounds tricky. I will need time to analyze. That's the point, Ethan said, leaning back in his chair. So you're outnumbered and I'm trapped in a room. You need to find a way to get me out safely. What do you do? I could create a decoy, she said instantly. A hologram of you, perhaps, to distract the attackers while I slip in and neutralize them. Ethan shook his head. Too obvious. We need something subtler. Her tail flicked in thought. A cloaking device. I could use it to make us invisible, then escape unnoticed. Better, but still too flashy. I want something that doesn't draw attention. She paused, her eyes flickering with thought. What if I used my human knowledge? I could blend in, pretend to be one of them, gain their trust, and lead them away from you. Ethan raised an eyebrow. You think you could pull that off? I will do anything for your safety, she said, her voice filled with conviction. He couldn't help but chuckle. Okay, I'll give it to you, that's not bad. She beamed at his approval. I knew I could impress you. You underestimate my intelligence, human. Well, I can't say I expected you to think of a trick like that, he admitted, but now let's work on making it more practical. We need to be able to handle a real-life situation, not just theoretical ones. Ethan walked over to the desk and pulled up a map of the building. He marked a few locations with a red pen. Okay, let's say this is the situation. I'm locked in a room on the 3rd floor. The attackers are moving in. I'm behind a locked door. What's your first move? She looked at the map, her gaze sharp. I will assess their numbers. Are they aware of your location? They're not, he said, enjoying the intensity in her focus. They're still searching for me. Then I will send a decoy, she said, her tail swishing behind her. I will use my cloaking technology to create a perfect illusion of you. It will be convincing enough that they will follow it, and I will be free to locate you. Ethan raised an eyebrow. And then? I will sneak into the building and disable their communications. They will be isolated and confused. You will be free to escape. He smiled, impressed. Okay, now that's more like it. No unnecessary fights. No wild destruction. Just smart thinking. She looked pleased with herself. I am learning human. You will see my value soon. Ethan exhaled, relieved. All right, this is a step in the right direction. I'm starting to see that you're more than just a walking weapon. I am more than that, she said firmly. I am your protector, human. I will use my abilities wisely as you have taught me. Ethan couldn't help but chuckle again. Well, I won't go as far as to say you're ready for a vacation, but you're getting there. She grinned, showing her sharp teeth. We will see, human. Soon, I will be the greatest protector in all the galaxies. Ethan just shook his head, still amused by her enthusiasm. Yeah, let's not get ahead of ourselves. But you're definitely heading in the right direction. Keep this up and maybe, just maybe, I'll start to believe it. She nodded eagerly, as if that was the ultimate goal. I will continue to improve, human. You can count on me. And for the first time in a while, Ethan actually believed it.